everyone. Welcome to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he's a director. He had a movie, a short film, that actually screened at the Magic of Horror Film Festival, and it's called The Consumer. I have with us Daniel Marino Villa Viciniano. I'm pretty sure I butchered that.
Pretty close.
Daniel. Yes. Welcome to the Horror Realm.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about The Consumer.
So The Consumer was a pretty short, simple film I made a few months ago now. I directed it, wrote it, shot it, and edited it myself. This was sort of the first of many now short films that I've made recently where I just kind of wanted to go back to like the bare bones, like really just try to come up with super simple stories that I could do by myself with minimal actors, minimal crew, just to practice my craft more often. Especially when you do film festivals, it's tough to send a film out there and like wait a year before you see it. I really wanted to just do more work more frequently to get better.
And the story?
Yeah, the story is about a girl who is addicted to online shopping, as I'm sure is pretty relatable to a lot of us. And we see she's got this ridiculous pile of boxes that fill the whole room, and she ends up getting a package one night that she didn't expect, and she doesn't remember ordering, and it invites some sort of evil into her home.
So, what gave you the idea for the story? I mean, do you have someone in your life who is addicted to online shopping?
I mean, I myself, especially working in film, I order stuff last minute all the time. So, I'll get a few packages a week a lot of the time, and I like to keep a lot of the boxes to recycle and stuff. So, at some point, something like the shot came into my head of just like my living room filled with like a Scrooge McDuck level like pile of boxes.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that'd be cool to film. So I started saving up boxes specifically for that.
Because it's a great idea. Because I mean, even myself, like I'm addicted to Amazon. I mean, I used to be worse off, especially when hopefully she don't go off when I say it, but Alexa, like when the Amazon Echoes first came out, I was addicted to everything Alexa. I mean, the lights, everything controlled. I was just ordering off of Amazon like somebody crazy. So I can definitely relate to, especially Amazon. It's addictive.
Yeah, and I feel like for our industry, especially like I know a lot of people that work in like props and stuff like that. Like sometimes you need stuff the next day, and the only option for that is Amazon. Like for better or for worse.
I agree. Now, how long did it take you to write and shoot The Consumer?
To write it, probably did it like in a few hours. When after like I like to kind of just like kind of spit it all out onto a page right away as soon as I get the idea. Because I feel like if I write the idea down, I'll almost never get to it. Shooting it was 2 days, but very short shoots, like 4 hours each day. It was one day was me, my actress Maddie, and one of my close friends Nicole Rinaldi, who did the production design and like creature design. She helped me with. We made a paper mache creature like for this film that comes out of the box, and she actually did like the controlling of the creature in the shots that it moves and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then, so she was with us one of the days, and then the other day was just me, Maddie, and Andy, who plays the creature in one of the shots, and also the delivery guy.
Now, is it tough? Because you say you've done 90 short films, which is a lot. That's a lot. Now, is it tough shooting short films? Because I mean, I feel like you would think that it would be easier to do a short film than a full length feature, but I'm thinking on the other side that like a full length feature, it gives you enough time to create your story, the character development, and expand. Or a short film, you got to have that beginning, middle, and end, boom, 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 in a short period of time. Is that tough to do?
Yeah, it definitely is. I haven't made quite 90, but I have made a lot now, especially recently. This year I've been doing one a month. just part of a challenge I've been doing for myself. Um, but it's interesting you mentioned the beginning, middle, and end, and I feel like especially in school, like we learn about the three act structure and all that stuff. But I feel like if you really sit down and watch shorts more often, it like you notice there's a lot of different structure going on in short films, and I think a lot of like up and coming filmmakers should really study that because you don't necessarily need to come up with a whole idea. You can really just have a scene sometimes, and it can pay off. The consumer is really just like two short scenes, like and it kind of ends with the monster getting her. So I like to think of it like that. I as soon as I just have an idea, I want to just get that scene out and then figure out whatever ending is most satisfying.
Yeah, is it tough working on both sides? Well, you're working on all aspects of the camera. I mean, you're directing, producing, editing, and you're in the film. In your films, is that a lot to do to wear multiple hats for a project?
I usually love it. I mean, I started out as an editor, so I've always had that kind of mindset. Um, I think that's really important and definitely helps me a lot. Because I can pretty much I also storyboard everything when I go to shoot a film, and I'll storyboard like almost every frame of it because I think like an editor like that. So when I go to shoot it, I'm just doing a checklist basically. With it, I always have room for actors' ideas and crew ideas and stuff like that. But I have a pretty solid idea of what I'm shooting before I get there. So then once I get to the edit, it's almost exactly like what I came up with. So I especially now I have a pretty good pipeline for it.
Now, when it comes to indie horror right now, there's a lot of creators out there, which is a great thing. It's a lot. There's a lot of films and short films and a lot of ideas. When you come up with an idea, do you go on Google to see if someone's already done it or not?
No, I don't. I'm a big promoter of I think at this point, 2024, I think everything's been done. And I think even if you go with the intention of, oh, I love this film, I'm gonna go like do my version of it. I'm gonna like even if you say you want to copy it, no matter what you do, you're going to end up making your own version of it because you're your own person with your own experiences. So even if you go and you have some shots that you love from a movie and you want to recreate it for your film, do it. Like there's no reason I don't think anyone should feel any type of way about that. I think no matter what the end product is going to be your own. So take inspiration, steal like an artist.
Because I mean, there's a big thing that's going on right now, especially in indie horror, where there's two fan films. A lot of indie filmmakers are going with existing IPs. Just Friday the 13th, Halloween, and other thing is too, a lot of indie horror filmmakers are going with public domain. They're going. You've seen a lot of Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Do you think those type of films are good for horror?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things that go against filmmakers. Like whether it be budget constraints, like locations, whatever it may be. There's so many challenges we face. I think anything that we can do to diminish the challenges, don't put more in front of yourself as far as like, oh, I don't want to try something that's been done. Because like I said before, you're gonna you're gonna make it your own. I think as long as you do your best to, I think if you're doing an IP, depending on what it is, you should try to be faithful to it. But that definitely depends on what you're doing too. I think there's some that are more ambiguous and allow for more room to play, and there's some that it's a really great world that should be done right. So it's tricky, but I do think existing IPs are a really good opportunity for like new filmmakers to sort of cut their teeth on. There's definitely a couple that I would like to try.
Yeah, and listen, and there's some great fan films out there. Some great fan films.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the public domain stuff, the Winnie the Pooh, the Mickey Mouse, I've seen a couple of those movies, and I just feel like they're cash grabs. I mean, I don't feel like if I was going to do a movie with Mickey Mouse, for instance, and I'm gonna be doing a review of one that I just recently saw, and it was it wasn't good. But the reason why it wasn't good because I'm like, if you're going to do Mickey Mouse, have Mickey Mouse aspects to the character. Just don't have someone just wearing a Mickey Mouse mask.
Yeah.
And that's what bothered me about the Winnie the Pooh movie. Like, okay, I want to see Pooh walking around with a pot of honey and throwing on somebody or something. You know what I mean? Like do some Winnie the Pooh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think most, sequels like that from old IP or, whatever reinterpretations of old IPs are definitely cash drags, at least from the studio side. But that doesn't mean the filmmaker that's doing them can't, try something new, or like I said, if it's something that can be cool to connect the old thing to the new thing, like you mentioned with the honey, like I think stuff like that is always appreciated by fans. It's always nice to stay on the faithful side rather than it's really tough to navigate those waters. I know Neil Druckmann, when he was doing The Last of Us with Craig Mazin, he talked about his process for like where he decided to deviate from the original story and where he decided to stick to it. And he was like, if I'm making it better, then I'm going to do that. And if I'm not, I'm going to stick, like if there has to be a reason why you're changing things, not just to be different.
I agree. Now you bring up The Last of Us. I'm a huge horror gamer. Is there a horror series out there that you would be like, wow, I would like to take a stab and making a film version of it, adaptation of it?
Yeah, I've always wanted to make a live action interpretation of the Resident Evil 4 specifically.
Oh,
that's never been done. Yeah,
my favorite game.
I think Resident Evil in general, personally, I don't think it's been done a great amount of justice. I mean, the Mila Djokovic movies are pretty cool, but they're not really Resident Evil,
Correct.
So I think there's a lot more that could be explored in that world, for sure.
Now, I wonder why, especially the Resident Evil, I don't know why they didn't stay with the source material of the Resident Evil story. I mean, that alone is a great story. If you just stuck to that, not directly, but as close as possible, I mean, that's a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, those were made a long time ago now, compared to like more recent live action interpretations, I guess. So I'm hoping that things are getting better. I think the Fallout live action was pretty good, as far as at least like visual and looking. Story wise, you could debate, but yeah, I think adaptations are getting better for sure. I think there's a clear improvement going on. So I hope that they continue that way, and I hope that people like me get opportunities to tell a story in a world like that.
Hey, you were talking about you had visions of possibly taking a existing IP and making your own version of fan film. Who would it be?
Yeah, definitely. Again, Resident Evil would be one of them. Mm-hmm. Resident Evil 4 especially is a big, one of my favorite games, and hasn't really been touched. And I think it's pretty. I think it would translate pretty directly too if you wanted to keep it almost exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, The Last of Us world would be amazing to be a part of. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, Fallout, even though the show is out, that world is so massive that there's so many stories that could be told, even if they're not from the original game.
Even Silent Hill, like I love the Silent Hill series, and the movies weren't that bad, but like if someone did a kind of follow story pretty close to especially part two was amazing. Yeah. Boy, that would be an amazing movie. Just explore that world.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, when it comes to filmmaking, are there any horror filmmakers that you kind of gotten inspiration from over the years, or that you've like, boy, I want to be like them?
James Wan has always been a great inspiration. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Saw franchise. obviously classics from like John Carpenter and Rob Zombie. I mean, there's so many amazing classic horror directors. But James Wan is definitely up there for me. I think I'm a big fan of directors with like a super distinct style. I think there's not a ton of that these days. Well, that's not to say that movies without that are bad, but I think it's really cool when you can like really see that, oh, this was made by this person, like
Hmm.
no question. Um,
And the movie *Malignant*, by the way, by James Wan, is such a
yeah,
good movie, and
yeah,
and I feel like it's so underrated. And I don't know if it's underrated because it got missed during the COVID time, but it's such a damn good movie.
that's a good point. I'm sure that is a big reason why it's kind of under the radar. Um, and yeah, and I know he's doing like a ton more producing now than he is directing, so it's cool to see kind of what he puts his name on. It's interesting.
Because I mean, right now we definitely have some great horror movie filmmakers. Some new ones are coming
Yeah,
out. Like Ty West is doing some great stuff.
yeah, 100%.
Um, yeah, I love the X series. You talk about James Wan. Why do you think, when it comes to Hollywood production companies, why are they so scared to go after new horror filmmakers or look for them, or even go into the indie scene? Why do you think they're constantly going to the same old guys? They're going to the David Horton Greens of the world.
I mean, you know, from a producer standpoint, I think it's just about making the safest bet you can. That there is really kind of a pipeline in Hollywood that you see a lot of these directors are coming from AFI, USC, um, NYU. Like it's really rare that you see a director that's not coming from one of the top film schools, if not at least a film school. Um, but I'm a big I'm a big promoter of indie filmmakers just doing more work as much as they can, because you know especially for underrepresented groups, making a career in this industry is like throwing darts at a board, and some people are throwing that dart from 6 feet away, but some people are throwing it from 100 feet away. But if you just keep throwing darts every day or every month or every year, you're gonna eventually hit the board. So just keep trying.
I agree, and like and I also think right now indie, when it comes to indies right now and horror, indie is where, I mean, that's where it's at when it comes to horror, because
Yeah,
there's not that. I keep seeing the repeat when it comes to Hollywood. I mean, every once in a while you get a Terrifier, or you get an X, but it seems like it's when it comes to horror and big budget horror movies, it's kind of becoming kind of redundant. And indie is where you're starting to see some of the more fresh ideas.
yeah, and I think horror is probably the best genre, I think, for indie filmmakers to start, because it's so forgiving. Um, you can get away with a lot more in a horror movie as far as like low budgets and smaller cast, smaller crews. And there's such an appetite for it. People love horror. Um, People like will support horror like very strongly, as opposed to if you try to go into like a drama film, there's a lot of competition for that, especially at the high level. Comedy is super difficult. You got to really know your timing. You got to really, I think, know actors well and know the language well. Um, but I think horror is great for everybody, because everybody's vision is unique, and I think in horror it shows the most.
I agree, because and like, I mean, I've tried to watch indie action movie, and it doesn't have that same feel because
Yeah,
the
it's
budget's not
hard.
there. You kind of have to have that budget. You have to have the special effects.
Yeah.
All right, so Daniel, this is a horror channel. I'm gonna ask you three random horror questions. These are
All right.
personal opinion, by the way.
All right.
Okay. The first question: what movie series do you wish they would shelf? That they need to retire? They're done.
Oh man. Um, that's tough. I don't know, man. Because if I like a movie, I'll keep taking them. I don't know. I feel like it's worth keeping that ball rolling, because you never know when you're going to get like a prey, from because
True.
like you never know when someone's going to come with a fresh idea. Um, someone out there like me is waiting and hoping that IP continues to live on because they have a great idea, but they're not at that level yet where they can get an opportunity for it. So I think I know it's controversial, but I think it's worth keeping. So like sometimes an IP just keep going.
See, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love the first two, and I feel like no one has been able to do that movie
Yeah,
right. I mean,
that's
there's been a
tough because
lot of
that's a
sequels,
classic. That's
and I just feel like leave that series alone.
yeah.
You know, I just feel like no one has been able to do it right since the original. I feel like that's the one series. And also,
I
too, I'm
guess
gonna
I would
say,
say Halloween would be
I'll say
mine.
Halloween. Also,
Yeah.
yeah, it's. But I'm also about to say the same thing about Scream. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm screamed out, and it's becoming kind of redundant in the same story over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the original slashers are tough because they were so cool when they came out and they were so kind of iconic. But yeah, I mean I still think you never know when someone's gonna put their spin on it and it's gonna be fresh again. So
All right, second question: what's a horror movie that everybody loves that you're like? Well, it's okay.
that's a good one. That's a good one. I don't know. I'm probably one of the most kind, for lack of a better word,
Mhm.
like film critics out. Like I love this stuff. I love that we get to do that. I get to work in this industry and that I get to do this job, and I love the people that do it. And I'm always amazed. I always look at it with like little kid eyes when I see a movie put together. So it's hard for me to be like, oh man, I don't like this movie. Um, yeah, I don't know. Especially for horror, I'll take anything. I'll watch anything once. So I don't think I have an answer for that one, unfortunately.
I've said many times, mine is the first Terrifier. People say that's the greatest horror movie ever. I'm like, listen, I'm not saying it's a bad horror movie, but I don't think it's the greatest. Like, I don't understand why people say put it up in that level. When you talk about greats,
Yeah,
I don't put it in down here, but I can't put it up into some of the greats
yeah.
horror
I'm
movies.
not. I'm definitely not as into the Terrifier series as much as I think some people are these days.
Yeah,
But you know, each their own.
and the final one. Speaking of Mount Rushmore, which what horror villains are on your personal Mount Rushmore?
Ooh. I think Mike Myers. Um, for sure. I'm not really a huge fan of Friday the 13th, but I think Jason as a character, especially visually, looks so cool. Um, it's different if I were to say like my top movies, it's different, but you're saying just the figures themselves. I think the Strangers um, are really really cool. Very like kind of like almost like Mike Myers, and where they're just like a thing. They're not even like a person. So that's really scary. That they could be just anybody. Um, I think they're up there. Uh, hmm.
No Jigsaw.
I do love Jigsaw, but I guess I don't think of him as much as a slasher. Um, but yeah, I would say Jigsaw.
Jigsaw is a good horror character. I don't enjoy all the Saw movies, but I mean I like the first two. And I also love the last one. The last one,
Yeah,
Saw X, was amazing. Um, but yeah, I mean I even had my Tobin Bell Jigsaw Mask up there on my shelf. But yeah, he's a pretty iconic character, and like he's one of those characters I would not want to cross paths with. You know, I would not want to be in one of his traps. I don't want to be on his bad side.
Yeah,
because bad things are going to happen.
The Grudge always terrified me. Oh, and Chucky also always terrified me as a kid, and I watched those very young, way too young.
Candyman was one that's really scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Terrifying. All right, Daniel, where can everyone find you and your work, my friend?
I'm on pretty much all platforms at dantheman.vil. Yeah, like I said, I'm making a short film every month. So if you watch my YouTube channel, I'm posting every month. A lot of horrors. I'm trying different genres here and there, but I definitely mainly do horror. Yeah.
Awesome. Listen, everyone, I'm gonna have the link down in the description to Dan's YouTube channel, so please like, subscribe, and check out his films.